Hi there, and welcome to my video today. I'm so happy to have you here. So today I'm going to show you how to make focal points for your mixed media art projects. And the reason why it became an interest of mine is because a couple months ago I started making these little pieces of art for my shorts on YouTube. And in the beginning, I was just creating these little kind of canvases on index cards. But I realized I really needed a focal point. So I started adding just little pieces of botanical images. So leaves, flowers, some interesting kind of leaves, just kind of plants and everything that just gave the piece of art a little bit of a place to focus on. So I'm going to show you today how I make these, and you can add them to your own art. So what I want to get started with is talking about what kind of paper I use. I use a heavy duty watercolor. This is 140 pounds. And I find that that really works better for me because it provides a little bit of kind of tooth to put down on the index card so it doesn't get all floppy. With that said, I've also used regular paper, a runoff from my jelly plates, even palette paper. You can use all different things to create whatever interests you is what I would encourage you to use because that is what's going to get you excited about your art. So just want to show you something that I do that is really helpful when I'm trying to figure out what image I want to put on a piece of art. So this is my art journal, and I just kind of use it to play in and create different things. And these are some sample flowers that I made that I like and I use quite often in my artwork. So it's just kind of imagery that I feel like I really enjoy looking at, and I just use another piece of paper and I'll draw it and then cut it out. I'm going to show you a few different ways that I create them. So those are the flowers, and these are just some examples of leaves as well. Okay, so let's get started. So what I normally do is just get a piece of paper. Now this is the heavy duty paper. And usually I have a kind of an image in my mind of what I would like to use, depending on the colors of the artwork or just the style of it. This is also another paper that I use, the Strathmore mixed media paper. Mixed media papers are great because they can handle a lot of layers and water and any kind of mediums. This is 117 pounds. Although it's a little lighter, it definitely works just as well for what we're trying to do. Okay, so I just take a piece of paper, and what I normally use are micron pens. You definitely want to use some kind of pen or marker that is not going to bleed, because if you decide later to put some watercolor or acrylic down, you don't want the actual flower outline to bleed. So then I just go in and kind of draw something that I'm thinking of. This is just a simple flower, and I'll do one more flower. They don't have to be perfect. It's kind of just fun to draw whatever. And then I just cut them out and use them in my artwork. Now you can use scissors, you can use an X-Acto knife, whatever makes it easiest for you to cut out, just do that. And what this is called is fussy cutting. So it's like kind of cutting right around the outline. And that's just a term that they use for actual little collage pieces. Okay, so there is an example of, you can see right there how it really changes the piece when you add a focal point. Okay, so that is one example. Another way you can make some a focal point collage fodder is by using paint first and then kind of cutting around it. So I'm going to show you that. You could do watercolors, you could do acrylics. So I have a very basic watercolor set. I think I got it at Five Below, and it's super easy to use. So what I'm going to do is just paint a basic flower and see what kind of shape shows up. It can be a little more complicated to do it with paint first, but if you want a color, this is a great way to do it. Pink, and then I'm going to add a little yellow. Give it a little interest there. And then what I'm going to do is just let this dry, and then I can go back in and use a marker to outline it. So I'm just going to put it right here, leave a little room for the stem, and just put that aside to dry for a second. So while that's drying, I'm going to show you the third way you can make a focal point. And it's what I mentioned before. It's by using just papers you already have. So this is some roll off from my jelly prints that I was making. When I'm cleaning the brayer, I just roll it off on some paper, and this is on a actually thicker piece of paper, which I don't normally use, but it must have been what was nearby. This is actually a piece of scrapbook paper, and I just used it as a roll off. And then this is actually my paint palette. So this is some really pretty colors and just a really interesting way of reusing it. Now, these are a little on the thinner side, so you want to keep that in mind as you're using them and what you're going to use them for. So for something like this, so what we're going to do with this one is use a little bit of a thicker outline. I'm going to use gray and just create a basic leaf. And the reason I'm doing a thicker outline is so that when we do fussy cut it, it won't show the colors on the outside. Okay, so I'm just going to make like a basic pattern. And this is just a Posca pen, Posca marker. And now when we go in to cut it, you want to try to get as close to the line as you can. And there it is. And you can go back in and kind of trim it up. Okay, so that is a great way to create a focal point, just reusing what papers you already have in different colors. And then we can do it with this. This one you can use a little bit of a white outline, even if you want to make just general circular shapes, right? You can do a couple, kind of make it an interesting outline. So here's a really sweet looking focal point, and you can make a little design in it. And then this is something that you can use for any of your artwork. So whatever really interests you, you got to follow that because that's really what's going to excite you in making your artwork and really kind of attract the people that like your artwork as well. So this is something that you could pop on to regular art pieces. You could put it on cards, homemade cards. You can make it with tags, put it in your art journal. There are so many different ways you can use all different papers. So we're going to go back to our watercolor. I dabbed it a little because it was still a little wet, but what we're going to do is take I like the micron pens for this. This one is the '08, and that has a little bit of a thinner tip, but it gives you a nice outline. So I'm just going to trace right around the shape of the flower. Doesn't have to be perfect. And then just draw a little stem. And then, as long as it's dry, You can draw the lines inside and just give it a little more interest. So now I'm just going to cut this out. Okay, and don't worry too much about it being perfect and looking exactly like a flower. I think one of the interesting things about creating your own fodder is your version of what you'd like to see. So if you see a little white, you see a little shadow, that's all part of your style. And I think it just makes it more interesting. So here's a great little flower that we could use. So there it is, the 3 different ways that I create collage fodder for my mixed media projects. And you could just experiment and have so much fun with all the different styles. The possibilities are endless, and I feel like they really give you a nice focal point to bring the viewer into your art and really enjoy your different style and your way of expressing yourself. So if you enjoyed this video, here are 2 more that I think you'll like. One is on how to make different collage fodder on your inkjet printer, and then another one on some mixed media pieces on how to use these inkjet printed images in your mixed media artwork. So I hope you enjoyed watching today. Thank you so much for joining me. Really appreciate you being here. Have a great day.